today with Nick Cavallino. You're based out of
I'm in Southfield, Michigan.
Southfield. Okay, so kind of like the Detroit area, a little.
Yep, it's like the Detroit area of Michigan.
Upper echelon area.
Yep.
It's kind of like our Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah.
It's close to downtown.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so you are. What year were you born?
1978.
1978.
Yeah.
And you were born in Southfield?
No, I was born in Detroit, but I grew up in like the suburban area of mainly like Clinton Township, Sterling Heights. But yeah, I maybe lived in Detroit for maybe 1 year, whatever.
Now, are you an only child?
No, I have an older brother by 4 years, and I have a younger sister by 6 years.
Wow. Now, are they into martial arts at all? Or
No, I'm the only weirdo in my family that does this stuff, that is obsessed with it. Everyone else has like a normal life. I'm the bizarre one.
So is that something that was that the first thing that you were passionate about, or were you passionate about sports? I mean,
Yeah, I think the first thing I ever really liked was martial arts. I liked ninja movies. I really got into that stuff. I think it was Shokasugi movies. They were really like the ninja thing. The craze of the '80s was the ninja, and I used to dress up like a ninja for Halloween, or even going to school. Sometimes I would dress up like a ninja. So that stuff had a big impact on me. And then once I saw other martial artists, I wanted to be like them. I just thought they were so cool. I always tell everybody that I used to think that they were like magicians, like they were magical people. They were these like superhuman people. They weren't normal. They weren't like a normal human being. They possessed these superpowers,
Oh yeah, and that's almost the way that they were presented, especially through media.
Yeah,
I mean, it seemed otherworldly. Like, how are they able to do this? And as you get older and as you get more into martial arts, you see that some of that's choreography, but then you start kind of like diving deeper into it and realizing, well, wow, there's some credence to a lot of this. And if I just kind of study and decide what area of martial arts I want to get into, I think that you can definitely pick and choose what is actually applicable to a street fight or scientific street fighting. There's that term, yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So what high school did you go to?
I went to Eisenhower High School. It's like a little bit of an uppity high school. I didn't like it very much. I remember I moved out to that area in high school around that time, and I had just gotten in a really bad car accident during that time. So I was starting a new school. I didn't know anybody. I only knew 2 girls there, and I barely ever saw them. So I had to start all over. I didn't like that school. I didn't like the environment too much. I might have liked maybe 1 or 2 teachers, and that was it. But I mainly hung out with my friends from, where I was originally from, which was like around Sterling Heights area, and those people went to Stevenson High School. So I was hanging around all those people mainly, and but yeah, that's the high school I went to, was Eisenhower.
So, in school, what sports did you play? Did you play any sports?
No, I didn't play any sports. I wanted to wrestle, okay, and I wanted to play football, but I didn't end up playing football. The reason I didn't wrestle, which I really regret now, is I didn't want to wear the singlet. So,
Yeah, that was like my thing too. Now I wish I would have.
When I saw that singlet, I said, "That's what I have to wear."
It's funny. It's funny because you kind of you adopted Savat, and aren't they kind of known for something similar?
It's very It's silly. What they wear is even probably just as silly. Yeah.
But that's you almost end up realizing that that's martial arts, and in its essence is putting you in uncomfortable situations.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's somebody smothering you when you're wrestling, when you're doing jiu-jitsu, or it's getting kicked in the head, or just doing a movement that just seems so like not natural.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that martial arts does. Is it makes you comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
And it kind of transfers over. I was talking to him earlier, or actually I was talking to Sean earlier, about how that's like, it helps you problem solve regular life. It simplifies things. It makes you feel not as overwhelmed when you're tackling your day-to-day task. It doesn't matter if it's shopping or I got 10 things to do this week and I don't even know where to start. It's kind of like well, if I don't start trying to get out of this choke right now, I'm going to be unconscious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I don't go ahead and tackle these things that I have to do throughout the week, I'm going to be left with no progress, and I'm just stagnant, and nothing's going to get done.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So this is just a random question. What is your favorite food? And actually, let's establish that. What is your ethnicity first?
My family's from Sicily, so I'm a Sicilian American.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And when did they come over to America?
1972.
1972.
They immigrated here legally, and they they had some family here already, but my parents wanted the American dream, so they came here.
Now, is your mom like a diehard Italian cook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was spoiled with a lot of really good food growing up, so I can't complain about like how as far as food, I had the best. But yeah, mainly I like Italian food because that's what I was raised on. But I really like Asian food. I really like Thai food, Chinese food. I even had some Philippine food. I do like Asian food though.
Now, does Southfield offer a lot you
you have places that have pho and like Vietnamese restaurants, and there's a few out there that are pretty good. Yeah, really good.
Okay, so how did you? And I know this is just completely different subject, but how did you start on your path to not owning a gym or co-owning a gym, and how did you get with Hashem or
Hashem,
Hashemi, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? I know that I met you through Dalo, so so is that's kind of how that began?
Yeah. So me and Jay Dallo, we both and Hashem actually, we all trained at the same place. We had the same instructor, so the same teachers, and we went to the same gym. And I knew Jay pretty well. We weren't like close at that time going to the classes, because he had started a little bit before me, and he had left for a period of time because he was pursuing law school, so he had missed a big portion of time in the middle there, and I continued to train. But when he came back, he was a lawyer and everything, and I always got along good with Jay, and we were having some issues there at the school, and our teacher was planning to move to, I think it was Alaska at the time, so we really needed a place to train, a place to go. So, he said, "Look, I'm gonna open up a place." And I said, "Really? You are?" And he said, "Yeah. Do you want to come there?" I said, "Sure. I want to train. I want to continue to do this." So he said, "Do you want to teach?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to." He's like, "Okay, well, this is the plan," and he would tell me the whole plan and how it was gonna go. And at first, I didn't believe him. I'm like, "No, there's no way. This is too perfect. This is good. You want me to teach for you? That's what I'm gonna do." And because being an attorney, he couldn't be there every day and everything, so he wanted to like open this place, and we had a business plan, how we were gonna do things, and he was very detailed. He was a very detailed guy. So, and I liked his vision, because what he really talked about was changing people's lives. Promoting these martial arts that we do and the love of the arts, which is all sounds great to me. So, being a help to the community in some positive way, and I like that idea. At the time, I was working at I think one of the local factories by my house. So I didn't really like that job, because I was doing something that basically, you're making someone else's dream come true. You're not doing what you want to do. You're not doing what you love. And I didn't care. For me, like, I didn't care if I made just a little bit less money. I just wanted to do something I cared about and that made a difference, and that's all I wanted to do. And I didn't know what it was, but this calling kind of happened. It sort of landed on me, and I was like, man, this is perfect. This is going to be great. So when we started out, it was kind of scary, because he opened the school and everything, and we had this space with nothing in it. We had a pair of focus mitts and one pair of Thai pads and a couple boxing gloves. That was it. Yeah. And the space. That was it. We had a little bit of marketing, but it was very, very little. And the school just started to grow.
Is that the same location?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it started to grow, and I was amazed at but I thought, man, we got to be doing something right if we're, people are coming and they're interested and they love what we do. And I really believed in what we were doing. We were doing good. I really liked it, but I started developing, all kinds of relationships with people, and I had to like learn on the job. I'd never been a program director or manager of any kind of business, but I was there all day, and being responsible for everything, people coming in, people, you're talking to people, walk-ins, your phone calls, returning emails, all these things, and I was on top of all that stuff. So, and I liked it. I loved it. But learning, you had to learn how to talk to people. As far as like for me, because I was a quiet guy, and I was pretty not shy but withdrawn. If I didn't know you, I didn't really talk to you. So it was a little bit of an adjustment period there. So I had to learn how to talk to different people, because you deal with different people, and you'd be amazed at what kind of things that you run into. Some people, they call you and they say the most ridiculous things, like I had a guy call and say, hey, I don't want to work out or anything, can you just teach me some stuff, like like pressure point stuff, like push a button on a guy's chest and he just falls down.
Yeah.
And you get people like this all the time. They watch too many movies and they think that's them, that's going to be them. And you want to, I don't want to ruin anybody's dream or anything, but I want them to know the reality. Like, look, that's not real, or look, that's not how it works. You can do pressure point stuff, but you probably have to do it like when you're in some sort of like jiu-jitsu move or grappling situation. Maybe you can use it then, but just pushing a spot on a guy's body is not going to make him fall down and go away.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So you can't get around honest hard work. There's no way out around it. So, but I mean, people like that. You get people that try to take advantage of you and financially or something. But
and you have to be more than a teacher. I think you even told me this before. You have to, like, some days you have to be a therapist. Some days you have to be a shoulder to cry on, or hey man, this really messed up thing happened to me. How would you handle it? And you kind of have to on the spot be like, okay, what's the best? I don't want to steer them wrong.
That's a good point. There's situations that come up. I had the same thing with my instructor, my teacher. I looked at him like he was a Superman, and that he must have all the answers. I got to ask him about this, what he thinks. As you get older, you start to realize, okay, well, he's just like me. I have the same problem. He has the same problems, but that's what you ask the guy for, questions like that, or I'm having problems with my girlfriend, and this and that. But you have people that come up to you and they ask you questions, and you're shocked. Like, to me, I'm shocked. Like, you want me to tell you what I think?
My advice?
Like, and it's flattering. I mean, I'm flattered that they would ask me, like, okay, what do you think? What do you think I should do? Business questions, or relationship questions, marriage questions. I'm not even married, so it's interesting. But I think that everybody, you have hairstylists that do the same thing. You have people that do hair. They listen to the person in the chair. They listen to them, and massage therapists as well. I used to do massage therapy, and it was the same thing. People would tell you like things that they were going through. They needed someone to talk to, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah.
And
it comes to the territory of
it's trust. I mean, it comes down to trust, and I think that if the person trusts you, it's a good sign, that they put trust into you, that they believe that you have something to offer, and that's great, And I hope that if any advice I've given is steered them in a right direction,
So, on the subject of Hashem and jiu-jitsu, when did you start doing jiu-jitsu? Because I know it was later in your martial arts journey.
We did some grappling. Because of JKD, you're exposed to some grappling, but it was very basic, very, very surface level stuff. And I didn't start jiu-jitsu until maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not very good at it. It's something that I'm not. It's not. It doesn't come as natural to me as some of the other things. I'm usually a fast learner, and this is something that's really, really testing my patience, because I'm not a patient guy.
Yeah.
So it forces you to be patient. Mm-hmm. What happens to everybody when they start jiu-jitsu? They feel like they're drowning.
Yeah.
They can't breathe. Everything's like shrunken in, and you can't see. You just can't breathe, and you just feel like you're gonna die. And that's what happened to me. It's happened to everybody. But it's such an important element in martial arts in general that if you don't have it, you're in big trouble. I mean, I think it's foolish to ignore the ground. I mean, whether you're talking about, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, we're talking about any kind of grappling at all on the ground. If you don't understand how to survive on the ground, or at least prevent the person from doing what he wants to you on the ground, it's bad news. So I think it's a great art. It's very interesting, very detailed. Like you notice the difference between no gi and gi. No gi is much faster pace. They kind of get right to the point. With gi, there's you got to know where to grab, when to grab, how to grab. 4 fingers in and thumb. All these details are really, really frustrating at first. But they're important and they're necessary. And I have no shame in sucking at something new. If I'm going to start something new, I know I'm going to suck, and it's hard in your ego at first, but it's I could swallow my pride and say, look, I'm going to get tapped every day, and I'm going to get my ass kicked every day, but this is a new game. This is new for me. If I were to stand on my feet, that's a different game. Now we're on the ground, and now there's different rules. It's a different world. You have to adapt to that now. So that's why I call my thing adaptive. Martial arts.
Oh yeah. So dive into that a little bit. So you have adaptive, and then you have the allied martial arts.
Yeah.
What's the difference between them?
Well, it's all part of allied. So me and Hashim has his sort of branding on jiu-jitsu, which is Azure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm adaptive combat methods. So we kind of combine them to come up with allied martial arts. So allied martial arts, it's those two things, whereas the adaptive combat method and the Azure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu were all under the same banner of allied martial arts, which is like a joint venture there. And it's our school is really kind of predicated on having a well-balanced martial artist to create not only fighting on your feet, but fighting with weapons. Okay, what do you do with a knife? Do you know how to handle a knife? Do you know how to work with a knife? Can you take the knife away from somebody? We do scenario training. We do obviously sparring, and then you have the jiu-jitsu. You have the no gi and the gi, so you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What main martial arts have you studied in, or become, or you feel like you have become adept in, or you would say are your core martial arts that you kind of build on?
I would say that I'm very, very, very well schooled in the art and philosophy of Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do was Bruce Lee's sort of philosophy or method of training. I think it's very, very much misunderstood by a lot of the population, and it's unfortunate because the founder died at 32 years of age. At the height of his fame and everything. So we don't really have much to go off of except for his notes, which were taken at periods of time in his life. And people are making the best assumptions based on that information, which was always changing. But the idea was to become a well-rounded fighter, which is much like today's MMA person. You have to be well-rounded. You have to know what to do in every situation. He was geared more for street combat, which there was no rules, of course, yes. There's no referees. There's sometimes multiple attackers, those kind of things. So I like that idea. I like combat sports. I enjoy watching them. I love boxing. I'm a big boxing fan, and I love watching kickboxing. But the Jeet Kune Do to me was something that was really special because I like the idea of not being bound by anything, not being stuck in one way of thinking. Like, well, if I do, Muay Thai, or if I do judo, I can only do a judo move. I can't do anything else, or else you're going against what you did. And it's like that. It's like blasphemy. You can't do that. And especially in his time, that was frowned upon. You can't cross-train other things. It's like religion. You do one thing, and you believe in that until the day you die. And he didn't believe that. He was a free spirit. He was a free thinker. And he didn't care about all that nonsense. He said, I just want to know what works. Give me what works. So he would work with other people. He would train with different people that had different styles, and he would trade. I'll give you my stuff, my information for your information. He came from a strong Wing Chun background, which was kind of an ugly style if you think about it, as far as like compared to like the more flowery kung fu styles, like the beautiful movements, which didn't really work. He didn't care about that stuff. He wanted what was straight to the point, simple, direct. How do I beat this guy in seconds, not minutes?
Yeah.
So he was like just interested in that and the simplicity of it. So that's what the art is predicated on, simplicity. And you talked about chipping away the essentials and stuff like that. Well, for you to chip away at the essentials, you have to learn something first, and then you chip away at stuff that doesn't work for you. And that stuff's going to change for everybody. So whatever works for one person, it doesn't necessarily work for the other person, and vice versa.
Now, do you think that... So obviously the movie Birth of the Dragon came out in the last few years. We know that it's obviously not all based on fact. It's kind of like a fantasization or whatever you would call it. It's cool. I think it captured some of the essence of Bruce Lee, like his attitude, and I feel like the actor did a good job with with his mannerisms. But you kind of have to take it for what it is, which is a fictional story based on real people. I think that there's certain aspects of it that were probably true. I think some of the students are based on real students. I think, but I don't believe. I mean, I guess there's been so many different versions of that story about Wong Jack Man coming over, but I don't like. Before I say anything, what do you think happened? Do you think he spearheaded Bruce Lee's spiritual rebirth, or do you think that Jeet Kune Do was already kind of being...
Well, here's what I think. Okay, the story originally started with, and this was like the whole dramatization of like Bruce Lee's journey into martial arts, that he was teaching non-Chinese and he wasn't allowed to do that, and they came to challenge him for the right to teach, and that's all BS. That's not how it happened. He was giving a demonstration, and Bruce was very flamboyant, very cocky guy. He's a young man. And he was speaking the wrong things. He was speaking out against these martial arts and these martial arts masters that had years of experience, but it doesn't work. I've seen it. It doesn't work in real combat. It's going to fail you. 20% of what you're using might be used, maybe, but every style has like fluff in it. Things that are not necessary, or that they're just not going to work. And he knew that. So he wanted to cut away with that stuff. And he had said these things. And people were, he made a lot of people angry. So he was this cocky kid talking out against these styles that have been out for thousands of years. And people have been studying them for years, and they devoted their life to them. And this kid comes in and says all this stuff. Like, who is this kid? And then, he kind of issued a challenge right then and there. He says, if you guys don't think that that my stuff works, and if you want to test it, my school is, such and such. It's going to be here. So you can come on anytime. All right? So someone took it like, this guy wants to fight. So they came there, and the original idea was they were going to spar. They were just going to spar. And the guy he had a bunch of rules. Bruce says, you came here to fight me. There is no rules. So he took the thing and crumpled it up and says, no, we're going to fight. He said, wait, let's have a sparring session, and Bruce says, yeah, whatever. And before they can even really get started, Bruce started punching. It was on right away. And when it started, Bruce started straight blasting the guy, The guy got punched, he got hit, he was getting hit. They say that he landed one shot. He had like this cufflink thing that had like a spike on it, and he wore it on purpose. I don't know if that's true or not, but he cut Bruce like on the neck.
Oh man!
And Bruce just kept chasing, bam, 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 and mowing him down. The guy started running. He turned his back and started running, and Bruce was punching him in the back of the head. They went behind this room, in this it was like a laundry room part, kind of like a back room, and they could hear him, beating him up. They came out the other door, and he was still running. Yeah. And then he tripped over this ledge, and then he got him down. He pinned him and everything, and he said, "Could you give up?" I said, "Okay, yeah." But from that experience, they say that he realized, the fight lasted about 3 minutes. which I don't know. I don't really believe it lasted 3 minutes, but that's a long time.
It is, yeah.
I think it lasted maybe a minute. But the people that were there was James and Lee, and there was Linda, who was I think 6 months pregnant with Brandon at the time. She was there. She said that the fight lasted 3 minutes. But from there, they said that he was winded. He was really unhappy with his performance. He should have been able to take the guy out in seconds, and he wasn't happy with his cardiovascular. His technique didn't work. It failed him. Like where he was at that time, which is very heavily kung fu based.
Mm-hmm.
Some things worked, not everything. So he had to reevaluate things, and that's when he started really looking into boxing training, and different types of styles for different ranges. And he started investigating these things. He went deep. I mean, he really investigated this stuff. But through all that accumulation of knowledge, he started to chip away at things that he didn't need, and he kept what he liked for himself, for him. You know, and I think over time, this is my personal belief, is that when he's teaching his students, people that wanted to know what he was doing, he was like, he expected them to be like him, like, yeah, just do what I do. You know, why can't you do it?
Yeah.
It's because they're not you. It's like I used this analogy recently. Was like, it's like Wayne Gretzky, greatest hockey player that ever lived. You know, when he coached, he was a really poor coach. Why? Because when a guy thinks the way he doesn't understand that the average person doesn't think about the game the way he does. The way he plays the game, the way he sees the game is completely different. And he can't understand, like, why can't you see that? Why can't you do what I do? You can do it. You're a human being. You have the same. And, you know, Wayne Gretzky was not a very strong man. He wasn't a built guy. He was a scrawny guy. He wasn't the fastest skater. I mean, he was quick, but he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest. So how was he so good? It's the way his brain thought. He could see things happening before they happen. He can break things down in his mind. He can react to things. He can identify things. Bruce was the same way. He was just an anomaly. He was very bizarre in the way his training methods were, the way he thought about combat, the way he saw it. And there was a story that Dan Inosanto told. He said that Bruce could see himself fighting another man from a different angle. He would see himself fighting as like a third person. And Inosanto was like, let me get this straight. You see yourself in a fight from a different viewpoint? He says, yes. So he said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What is this? Like, it's bizarre, but this is the way the man thought. He was very crazy. But
even his, I mean, wasn't he known for having weirdly long arms for an
yeah,
Asian person?
he was only about 5'7", 5'8" maybe. But he had the reach of a 6-foot man. Okay, his arms were really long for a person his size, and he had one leg extremely shorter than the other. So he had it's like a birth defect, and that's how he hurt his back.
Yeah.
From doing good mornings, because if your hips are shifted like this, you put all that weight on the bar, and then you bend forward. Of course, your spine's not going to be able to support that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how he hurt his back. Yeah.
So, I'm not sure. What was it? Didn't Wong Jack Man or somebody take credit for that? For him hurting his back, saying they kicked him or something?
Well, there was a movie.
Stories.
There was a movie called Dragon, the Bruce Lee story,
Yeah.
where they dramatized it, where he beat him, but then as he walked away, Wong Jack Man kicked him in the back and broke his back, and that's all BS.
What do you think? Like, why do you think they have? Is it because they think it's too like the real story is too boring? Like, why do you think they do that?
Yeah, I think they wanted to heighten the excitement, or they dramatize it to make it more Hollywood,
Which is crazy.
More than
It's
likely,
sad.
people who are involved in that too, like
Yeah.
don't even know martial arts, or aren't even involved in any way, shape, or form. They just know, oh, Bruce Lee, oh, I want to make that movie. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's a shame. I mean, because the true story would have been fine.
Yeah.
It would have worked out fine. You know,
Because it lives on, you know, of
Yeah.
course, like even still. Now, speaking on that too, like, because recently there was a UFC fighter, Mickey Gall. He made the comment. He's like, they were talking about Bruce Lee, and then out of nowhere he just goes, he's like, let's just get this straight right now. He's like, I would fuck Bruce Lee up. So how do you think Bruce Lee's martial arts style would be compared to like now, where like everything, like almost every fighter in the UFC, you know, has like multiple martial arts.
That though,
Yeah.
because it would have evolved.
Yeah.
You can't take Bruce
Yeah.
Lee's JKD and be like,
Yeah.
well, okay, I know he would use these 7 moves probably, and he would move like this. It's like, well,
Right. Yeah.
you know, after Muhammad Ali's prime, maybe he would have set his sights on somebody else with his movement. You know, like the way he embodies certain things from certain martial arts.
I'm not delusional. If I were to put Mike Tyson up against Bruce Lee in a boxing match, Mike Tyson's gonna destroy him.
Right.
Kill
Yeah.
him.
And
But
even Mike Tyson has said that.
yeah, but in the boxing match. But if you put it in the street, maybe things would be a little bit different because he could use different tools.
Yeah, we've never seen Tyson in an MMA fight. You know what I
Right.
mean, where he has to
Exactly.
fight off his back. Or,
Yeah, I mean, those are like scenarios you could always play in your mind, and but I think that first of all, I think Bruce would really like the UFC. I think he would like to
Right.
see that because to him
Mixed
it
martial
was,
arts.
Yeah.
he would like to see the different ranges of combat being displayed and how people deal with them. You know, I think he would have been a big fan. However, I don't think that there was a philosophical side to Bruce that a lot of people didn't understand. And when I was younger, I didn't understand all the things either. As you get older, you start to understand that things start to click, what he meant by certain things. And but what he's doing, basically, at the time, was what these athletes are doing today, which is basically absorbing everything information that they can get from each trainer or teacher or discipline, and they're trying to take what they can learn, what works for them as an individual, because there's things that, you know, like I said, there's things that work for you that don't work for other people, you know. There's
Whether
things,
it's because of their body type or because of
even
their
their personality,
mobility.
their personality, like it just doesn't suit them. There's some people that don't like Muay Thai boxing because the hard training, it's too hard on the body, or it's too rough for them. But they'll take to something, you know, like jiu-jitsu. It's a little bit easier. They're grappling, they can grab onto you. Okay, they feel safer. They can grab you and submit you. They like that idea rather than punching someone or elbowing someone in their head. But I think that the gist of what he was trying to do was become a more well-rounded fighter, and how to use, you know, all of his tools that he had. And I think near the end of his life that he really didn't like the fact that he gave this thing a name, because now it's like, okay, well, I said I have a style that it's not a style, but it is a style because you labeled it, you put a label on it, and he didn't want it to have a way. Okay, well, if I'm doing this, it's Jeet Kune Do, which translates into the way of the intercepting fist. So if I don't intercept, I'm not doing Jeet Kune Do. Like, I have to intercept every time, or that's the main thing. So if I'm not doing that, then it's not Jeet Kune Do. So he kind of said, okay, you know what? Get rid of the name and just do whatever it takes to win. Whether it's interception or not, I'll just use whatever I can. And that's how he talked about expressing himself, expressing the human body. The expression of the human body, that's what you're using. Okay, there is no style. You are the style. It's you. So I like that idea. I like that the concept of that makes much more sense to me than turning it into a set system that has principles. Yes, you can follow the principles. You can follow the principles not only in martial arts but in your daily life. But the principles that he kind of went with, you know, being simplistic, and those are really core things that you can really put in anything. So the art of Jeet Kune Do was meant to evolve with the individual. Okay, it's going to evolve. It's meant to do that. It wasn't meant to stay in a frame of time. That's, to me, that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't hold true. It's if you keep it in that context of that time period, then today's fighter is going to destroy you. You're not prepared for that. And there's a lot of guys, and unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that, depending on what lineage they come from, they shy away from the grappling. You know, they think, oh, well, Bruce Lee didn't do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think he would have.
Yeah.
You know, I believe he would have. That's just my personal
He
belief.
had dabbled in it, and like
He already had some, yeah.
I mean, why would he have put that scene at the beginning of Enter the Dragon if
Exactly.
he didn't respect, you know, working on the ground, the fact that a fight will go to the ground, you know.
Yeah, eventually,
Yeah. Not all fights will go to the ground, but you better have good wrestling defense.
And that's another thing that people talk about. This is the dumbest thing that I hear is, well, Bruce Lee never had any fights. What fighting would you want him to do? like in
Yeah, they didn't have the
1970.
UFC back then.
Like,
Yeah.
what did you want him to compete in?
Back then,
Point fighting.
literally
That's
was.
all they had.
And he didn't want to do that.
He
was
said
like,
that was. He said this to Dan Nasano too, because he told a story that Dan Nasano he just won this tournament, point fighting tournament, and he had these trophies on the wall, and Bruce came over, and he's looking at these trophies, and he's like, these are worthless, right? And Dan Nasano's like, what do you mean worthless? He's like, it's a game of tag, Dan. Come on, you're not really hitting each other. He's like, yeah, but I'm sore. I'm hurt here. I'm hurt. He's like, come on, Dan. It's a game of tag, and it's true because they weren't really allowed to touch each other. Most of the points were happening if the other person looked like he was going to hit that person.
As soon as contact was
yeah.
initiated. All right, that would have been a fatal
That would have
blow.
been really bad, But that's just dumb because how do you gauge a person's chin?
Yeah.
There's some people that you can hit. You just turn their head, they look at you, they smile.
Mm-hmm.
What about those guys? That's not taken into account to a lot of factors. So I just think that I think had he stayed alive, had he been alive, he would have definitely, I think, looked more into the jiu-jitsu because he was doing what was popular at the time. At the time, he was actually going against a lot of things too. He was against like all the point stuff, and he thought that was nonsense, and the stiffness of a lot of the styles, and the floweriness of a lot of the kung fu styles. He wanted to also show the American culture, the toughness of the Chinese man, and at that time he felt that was kind of missing, and he wanted to kind of show his pride of where he came from. So there's a lot of things going on for him at that time, and obviously now with the information we have, the guy was in Hollywood. He was around Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
He was around girls. He was around the Hollywood people. He was kind of, although the guy was training every day and everything, he maintains martial arts and everything, yes. But he used film to educate people on what he was doing as far as martial arts. He wanted to educate the people on, like, look, this is real. This is real fighting. Not the flying through the air for 10 minutes, and then landing on the ground.
And he wanted to represent Asian culture in a way that wasn't like he said he was almost ashamed of the way that Asian cinema was presented.
Yeah.
And the reason that it wasn't as high and as quality wise at least was because people weren't taking it seriously, because it was all blood and guts and these real flying movements and and that it's beautiful, and that's art, but he said that there's more to Asian culture than just that,
And you think about it this way too. It's like he was the first guy. Like when you saw this guy, he was a small guy. Okay, he wasn't tall. He looked scrawny, but he was a badass. Like he was just this guy. Like the presence he had on screen was like, I would never want to mess with this guy. He was very dangerous.
He didn't even have to say anything.
He had to say, and a lot of times in his roles, he was really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But through his movement, the way he walked, the way the guy walked was intimidating. You knew that guy could fight. And when, as a kid, you see that, you're like, "What? This guy's different. He's very different. I like to what I see, and I want to possess that. I want to have that. I want what this guy has." So that was like the inspiration for me. And then as you get older, like I didn't know anything about Bruce Lee at the time, but then you start to, when I started learning about him and learning that he had his own sort of like, he came up with his own way, that fascinated me. So I got obsessed with it. I started, buying the books and highlighting, making notes, and I looked into it like academically. I was a nerd. I brought books with me on vacations, and I'd take notes and study, and I would say like, I'd have like a doctorate degree or something, and Bruce Lee. It's like it's just I look like a nerd. I mean, that's what I had stacks of notes at home, and just what I found out, what I discovered, and then through my own personal experiences, the philosophical stuff came to me later. It made sense to me as I got older.
So 2-part question. Would you say that Bruce Lee is probably your main primary influence for martial arts? I mean,
Yeah.
did you follow him at a young age as well?
Yeah, because he was a smaller guy,
Right.
and I'm not a tall guy.
Yeah.
So I was always shorter than everybody, and I liked the fact that he was a rebel. I liked the fact that he didn't go and he wasn't doing what everyone else was doing. If you look at him in Enter the Dragon, you know, he's not wearing what everyone else is wearing. He's not wearing the gis.
Yeah.
He's wearing like a white shirt, black pants, and you know, one guy's like, "Hey man, where's your uniform?" I like the fact that he did what he wanted to do, and he was like that in real life. You couldn't tell him what to do. He didn't like that, you know. And if there was any kind of like, although he respected tradition, he wasn't bound by that stuff, you know. He was like,
He was human.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
That's why I think there was a recent articles that came out trying to decredit his, just who he was, his character,
Yeah.
with like, was it the receipts for drugs or whatever that he
Yeah.
was supposedly trafficking?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
well, like you said, he got ingratiated in Hollywood. You know, there's who knows what he was around, what
Yeah, people-
what he was exposed
People are shocked.
to. I mean,
people are shocked. Like, okay,
and he was a person.
he's an actor in Hollywood that did cocaine.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's a
Which
shocker.
was-
Like, in
Right.
the 70s.
Yeah.
In the
I've heard
70s.
countless like comedians
Everybody
who
was
say
doing
that
that. Yeah.
they'll walk into the production room and the
Yeah.
The assistant's like, "Do you need some coke?"
yeah
That's like the
doing
first thing they
like,
ask you, yeah.
yeah.
But I don't think. I mean, was he a heavy user? I don't know. I mean, I think that reading those
I
notes.
think he was curious. I
Yeah,
think,
of course,
yeah.
of course. But I think it makes sense though, because if you look at, there's some interviews that you'll see that some of the people that worked with him, you know, like the director of Enter the Dragon, Robert Klaus, said that he would call me at 2:00 in the morning, and he'd say, "Hey, I'm working on this fight scene. I got this new idea for this scene tomorrow." He's like, "It's 2:30 in the morning."
Yeah.
He said, "We got to be on set like in a couple hours. What are you doing?" And just, he was up all night. He wouldn't sleep, and he was tireless. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
probably
it
on
does.
cocaine.
I think Chuck Norris said they trained in a hotel hallway till like 7:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
They didn't realize it.
Yeah,
It started getting light outside. It's like, yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. I think that you
Yeah.
got to take it. Does that make you not see
No,
everything
absolutely.
else that he
See,
did?
That's the thing. Everyone's like, I remember there was people that were really busted up about it. They were really upset and saying, "Oh, no, I'm done with Bruce Lee."
Yeah.
That's
I
dumb.
feel betrayed,
That's just
yeah.
dumb. That's so stupid.
You could say the same thing about like Mike Tyson,
Yeah.
where he's
Yeah.
come from and where he's at now as a human being.
Yeah.
Even he admits like he was an animal back in the day. You know,
Yeah.
he was.
Is it not any less impressive that Kurt Angle did what he did?
Right.
Just because he was all on painkillers. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was on painkillers because he was still trying to perform.
Yeah.
Still trying to be the
With
best
broken
that
neck.
he could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Everybody has flaws, man. And Bruce Lee's no different. He's a human being. It made him more human for me. I
Yeah.
like that fact.
Yeah, because you almost you see him, or you imagine him as like a distant thought or a legend, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's
We
mysticism
tend to
around him.
make him like this
Put him on a
godly
pedestal.
figure, and we have to understand that we do that to a lot of people, our instructors, our teachers that taught us, because we look up to them so much. But we have to understand that these are human beings with real problems, with issues. As great as they are in one area of their life, they're not sometimes in other areas. Like I always refer to Inosanto stories because he's a good storyteller. But he said he was telling a story of how he had this crib for Brandon that he had to put together, and he couldn't figure out how to put it together. It was like put point A to point B to. He got mad. He slammed on the ground. And just walked out. And the son was just standing there. He's like, "I'll put it together for you." But this is a guy who was like, he couldn't change a tire.
Yeah.
He couldn't do. That's not his realm of like expertise. He was a martial artist. That's what he did. That's what he thought about 24/7. So.
Now, this is kind of backtracks a little bit when we were talking about like what Jeet Kune Do left when he passed away. A lot of people take the accumulation of his notes and everything, and that was put into multiple books after he passed, and they take it as a Gospel of Paul curriculum.
Yeah.
Like this is what it is, and it has to be this. And if you say
Yeah.
any different, we're not even going to discuss it. It's like I see some of these, like I'm a part of some of the same groups as you, and it's like you don't even want to comment because
No.
it's such a low level of thought that's being passed back and forth. And like you said, some of these people they're not practitioners, and you can almost tell that, or they're not practitioners that have tried to battle test what
Yeah.
you know. It's I don't know. It's just I don't think that he left any certain kind of curriculum, and I also don't think, like you said, he kind of disbanded the schools near the end
For
of
that
his
reason.
life.
For
you
that
know?
reason, because he didn't want it to have a. He said that the reason he got rid of the schools was, for one, they weren't making money. Two, like the main reason though actually was that he thought that if people are coming to see me and to train with me at my schools, they think that I am the way. I am their answer. I'm going to give them the answer to their journey. He says no, you have to find that for yourself. He was a big proponent of self-help, or self-knowledge, learning things yourself, because you have to. In JKD, I think that the best thing that I've learned is you have to look in yourself. You have to ask yourself tough questions, and you have to see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what things you're hung up on mentally and psychologically. There's just so much more to it, and I think that he really was into Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti had this thing. He was like this. He was looked to as this, like, he was going to be this world leader, and he kind of said, no, I don't want that. And he went against organized religion. He thought that was all ridiculous. That he goes, don't look to me as the answer. If you're looking to me the answer, you're lost. You have to find it for yourself. And that's why I think that Bruce took that information and he kind of said, you know what, he's right. I'm doing the same thing with JKD. I'm telling people, hey, this is, I'm going to give you the answer. I can't give you the answer because you can't do what I do. You can't maximize what I can do.
Yeah.
This is for me.
Yeah.
This is my thing, and I'm making you do it. It's like, but you can't. So he felt that you have to find your own way. You have to find the cause of your own ignorance. That's what he called it. So I just think that for me, and my journey is thus far, is the name. Although I love it, although I love what it had to teach me, I'm not stuck on that name anymore. I'm not hung up on it or anything. I don't, it's not something, because that's Bruce Lee's thing. It's for Bruce Lee. Jeet Kune Do was Bruce Lee's. For me, I have to find my own way, my own sort of way that works for me, because I'm an individual,
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right, so this is a different subject again. What is the craziest thing that you have ever experienced in the martial arts world? Like, whether it's a trip you took somewhere or somebody you met that really made an impact on you.
Oh, well, that's a
Don't get me
tough
started.
question. That's a tough question. I've met so many wonderful people through the martial arts, and that's one of the great things about training martial arts is you meet all kinds of interesting and very cool people. I've been in contact with people that are like big names that I've read about, and I like their material, what they do, and the way they teach. I've gone to their seminars. I got to train with them, some of them privately, and you get information that's like really unique. But also, there's their personalities are really interesting, and you get to know them on a personal level. It's really cool, and through everybody I've met, everybody that I've trained with, I've learned something from them. I've learned something from my students. I've learned something from the people I've trained with. I've learned from of course, the instructors. And everybody has a different philosophy, and they all have something to offer. And I really value the information that I've gotten. But I mean, to me, that's the greatest thing that I've witnessed is like just the relationships that I've built, and that I'm continuing to build with people in the martial arts world. And you gotta remember, all this stuff it's been around for years and years and years, and we're a part of that. Like when you teach someone something, that's the great thing about being instructors. That I think Customado said this too. He said that when you teach someone something, part of you is with that person forever. Because you taught them something valuable that they can use not just for fighting, but for everyday life. You're making them stronger. You're making them tougher, and part of you is always with them. And that's one of the great things about being like a trainer or a teacher is that you're instilling discipline. And that's how I am with my kids' classes. I'm very hard on them, very mean. I'm not nice. I'm very, very mean.
Yeah.
So but I'm mean in a way because they have to know that I'm serious. Because kids will walk all over you. They don't. If they see any
They barely listen to their parents.
yeah, if they see any weakness, they will not listen. They don't care. I have kids that come in and they're a disaster. Okay, and the parents bring them in there for that reason. Mm-hmm. And that's the way the parents wanted them. They want them to have structure and everything. And that some of the parents they come in. The kids don't have a father, so they have no strong male figure in their life.
Yep.
That always tends to leave a kid with a lot of freedom. Because the mother usually nurtures the child, but there's no hardcore figure in their life to kind of keep.
There's a necessity for both.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's an important dynamic, and some of these kids, man, at first I didn't think I was gonna like teaching kids, but I actually liked it. It's been a rewarding experience for me. Like it's truly been something that because they teach me things too. I learn. Dealing with different kinds of people and different kids. I've grown relationships with the parents and everything, so it's been awesome, man. That's one of the greatest things I've experienced.
Awesome. All right, so we kind of did a little deep dive into martial arts. Let's go into a little bit more of a neutral subject. Mm-hmm. I know he wanted to ask you about hockey. I told him that you have an interest in hockey. When did you start skating? Ice skating and
I started
getting
late.
interested in hockey.
I started late because my parents didn't really want to put me in hockey because it was expensive.
That's what I hear too. Yeah, like buying equipment and stuff for hockey is outrageous. Yeah.
Today's world, back then it wasn't even that bad. Back then you could buy a hockey stick for the most expensive hockey stick at that time was Steve Eiserman's hockey stick. It was $50.
Yeah.
It's $50 because his name was on it.
Yeah.
That was the only reason. But yeah, I remember my first hockey stick was $6. My first hockey stick, I'll never forget. It was a Victoriaville hockey stick, wooden hockey stick, $6 with no curve. Okay, and I was so amazed that I got it. I was so happy. We had ponds by our house, so we would go to the ponds, and we wouldn't even have ice skates. We just slide around the ice. But I became obsessed with it. Anything I liked, I used to be really obsessed with it. So. My favorite player was Steve Eiserman. I had the pleasure of being in Detroit. You get to watch him every night play. And I liked the way he played. He was smooth and he was quiet. He didn't talk about himself. I loved that. He was very humble. He was always talking about the team. He never talked about himself. Even though he was the best player, and he was probably behind Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, he was the third best player in the world, I think, in that time. Late 80s or early 90s. Mm-hmm. He was the best. But I liked his leadership. I liked the way he played, the way he handled himself in the media. He was real classy, and I wanted to possess that sort of attitude. I wanted to have what he had. So I would watch him every night. I'd watch the way he shot the puck. I'd watch the way he skated. So I'd try to copy off him. I would record games and just analyze it again and again and again. How did he shoot the puck? Okay, what facial expression was he making when he did that? Everything to the T. And I would just imitate it. And over time, I became a pretty good hockey player. I had friends that were playing on traveling teams, and I was better than them. Yeah. And but my parents would not put me on a team because it was so expensive. Not just the equipment. It was ice time. I mean, it was thousands of dollars, $5,000 to put a kid on the team, to put him on these really nice teams. It was expensive. It was an investment. And a lot of these parents, they do it knowing that there's a good chance your kid's not going to make it in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And he might, by the time he turns into a teenager, he might be like, I'm going to go chase girls. I don't want to do this.
Right, they lose interest.
Yeah, and you spend all that money for nothing. So it's really, really, who knows if I would have, I was obsessed. I probably would have kept going. But because I was so small, maybe I wouldn't have gotten drafted, because when I graduated high school, the league was looking at players, if you weren't above 6'3", 220 pounds, they weren't going to even look at you. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't even gotten looked at,
Yeah, people don't realize that either, how big hockey players are. They're they're all huge. There's some small guys, but most of them are even the guys who really aren't hard and like aren't like fighters are still like huge
Yeah.
guys.
Yep.
And we got playoffs coming up.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I think the current matchups. I don't know. I assume you're a Red Wings fan.
I was. I'm
Okay.
not. I'm more of an Oilers fan now.
Oilers?
Yeah. I'm not,
Well, they're in it and they're clicking right now.
Ever since
too.
Eisman retired, I'm like, Red Wings. I don't really
Yeah,
care about.
they turned it around. Yeah, I don't know. The Blackhawks
Yeah.
really haven't been putting it together either. So the Oilers have the Kings in the first round. I would say the game that I'm probably going to look forward to the most is Calgary against Nashville. 'Cause I
Calgary's
think,
fun. Yeah. I like
yeah, Calgary, and I think Colorado is probably going to, probably, I don't know. The Florida Panthers, I think, are probably what is everyone is saying is the team to beat right now in the playoffs. But I don't know if you've been following or anything at all. I usually,
I've been following here and there, but I've been ever since I stopped playing. I used to play in leagues and everything, and ever since I stopped playing, it's hard to watch because I want to play.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, sometimes when I watch college football, because the NFL I kind of dealt out of, but college football, just the atmosphere and like, you know, the band's playing, it gets crazy
Yeah.
loud. Like I was like, man, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
You know, to at least experience
Right.
playing in
Yeah.
college. But
Exactly.
That's what gave him. He played in high school. High school, right?
yeah, high school.
I mean, when he came in here, like he didn't have a whole lot of martial arts experience. He had, just like most of the people in here, you know, gym to gym, a little bit of Muay Thai here, a
Your
little
basic boxing,
you know,
probably skills.
yeah,
that's
and
it.
a lot of like we've even discussed, a lot of it was at gyms that are like more fitness.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
give you like the heartbeat monitors.
Yeah, it was
like,
more for like a
that's
conditioning
it's very
class.
marketed
Yeah.
towards just like the general public. You don't have to be a diehard martial artist to
Yeah.
want to do this. But his football, it really gave him a solid base and an awareness of like, if I try to pull him this way,
Yeah.
he knows he's trying to get me off balance.
Mhm.
So
He
it gives me a
identifies that,
rough
yeah.
time with him because I'm like, I know more than him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But he's just like, first of all, he's athletic. He's built like a freaking
Yeah.
hoss. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like the other day when you were saying I wasn't pulling back and punching. It's because I knew that if I would have separated myself and pulled back to punch, I was going to end up
we
on my
worked
back.
on grounding the
Yeah.
other day at our MMA class on Thursday, and we took turns. So it was about 3 to 4 minutes each. We
Yeah.
took turns like get side control, and then the person on bottom, you need to try to get out. The person on top, try to keep them controlled, and then also rain down punches. We had boxing gloves on, so it was hit him to the body, you know, hammer fist, do whatever you can. And he, like I kept telling him, I'm on bottom, telling this guy, posture up and punch me.
Yeah.
Punch me already, you know.
He's like,
Yeah.
get up,
So
get up.
that's the one thing that I know in between now and when he fights in June, we have to work on. It's just a slight timidity, and it's not even like that. He's capable. He can do it. Like I'm not. I think in some aspects he's in better shape than I am. But we just that combative mind of like, and like he said, he even said it to you earlier. I keep looking down, or I keep, you know, like he's just those habits that you just gotta break.
Closing my eyes, stuff like that. Yeah.
Because like there's a point when you get far enough into martial arts, and I'm not even like jiu-jitsu. I've been doing for about 5 years now. MMA and like stand up and boxing, maybe the last year and a half, you know. And then I met you maybe about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
the first time. I really haven't been doing like, but I finally got to the point where it's fun. It's like building stats for your character,
That's
because
good.
you're like you're
Yeah.
looking
That's
at
how you
people
learn.
in a
That's
different
how,
way.
When you're
yeah.
having fun, you're gonna learn.
Yeah. There's no pressure of like, and with jiu-jitsu and like with I mean, like you have a rank system for the kids, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it's not like Taekwondo where there's 30
No.
different belts. Jiu-jitsu is the same way. There's 5 belts. You're in it for the long haul. If your end goal is to become an adept black belt and you want to be able to apply what you like if you're in it combatively, like you want to be able to use this and spar and grapple and
Yeah.
stuff like that and be competitive and go compete. There are some short-term goals that you can meet, but like it's not like short-term satisfaction. I'm gonna get patted on the back every other day. Like you have to bite down
Yeah.
and keep charging forward. But if you get into that mind, it's more like you absorb more because you're not thinking like first, like you said, you have to break the idea that if I tap, I'm a punk. You know,
Yeah.
who cares?
Right.
There's no ego in here, and if there is, it's gonna slowly get ushered out the door.
Yeah.
Egos, mat bullies, they all
That's-
get left behind.
That's how I tore my shoulder. I tore my shoulder in 3 places.
Because
Running with Hasha.
not tapping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
He did one of those, he unwrapped his gi, tied it around my arm, and I was trying to yank it out, and I tore it 3 places. So,
man.
yeah, it's stupid.
He's very unassuming.
Yeah.
But
But he's like a bear.
Yeah.
He's very strong.
he moves quickly. I mean, he looks like he's 70. Or I don't
Yeah,
know
he's
how
like
old-
he's close to 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like
Well, he
66,
doesn't move like
67.
he moves like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, he's
30 years old.
Yeah.
still a killer.
And he was showing what was surprising when we sat in on that class was that he was showing stuff that was like it almost reminded me, and I don't know, I don't want to be insulted by this, but it reminded me of like the more unorthodox like Eddie Bravo, like the no-gi stuff. Like it wasn't just the typical like here's your arm bar, here's your side control, here's your put him in your guard.
Well, he's had exposure because of our teacher. He's worked with Eric Paulson. He's done Shuto. He's done some catch wrestling. He's done and he's a wrestler. As a foundation, he was a wrestler.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of he dabbles in a lot of different things. So
He showed me 3 different variations of a triangle, and 2 of them, it's not that I had never seen them before, it's that I had never been taught them. And it was just like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought, oh, hey, I've been doing this for 5 years, like, I'll probably see something that I'm basically know what the gist of what they're doing, and I'll be able to pick that up. No, like, I felt like, you know, I was drowning again.
he's a grappling genius.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah, so, all right.
Well, I know earlier you said that you were a boxing fan, so
Yes.
give me your top 5 boxers.
Of all time.
Favorite boxers.
All time?
Yep.
Well,
I'm a
that's
huge boxing fan.
That's
So.
a good question. Oh man. Okay, so my all-time favorite, because I love his style, because it suits me. Mike Tyson.
Okay.
I love the Peekaboo style.
Alright. Can't go wrong with
I
that.
love the Customato philosophy and everything. I'm a huge Customato fanatic. I'd say Sugar Ray Robinson. Greatest champion as far as class, I'd say Joe Louis. And then I really like Roberto Duran.
Okay.
Hands of Stone.
Yes.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
Man, that's
how
a classic
his brutality.
list
is
right there,
just,
Do you
he's
think
crazy.
it was a mistake for him to move up in weight classes the way he did?
I think he did. I think he had a problem with
or was
weight
it just
in general.
age?
I
Like,
think
'cause he was
age,
getting older
yeah.
as he tried that.
He had a
well.
problem keeping maintaining weight because he liked to eat.
Yeah.
So,
he thought, well, naturally, I guess this is what I should do. I'll
yeah,
just
but
move
he didn't
up.
operate really good at a heavier.
Because those guys were cutting down
Yeah.
to be at the weight that they were at, so they still had this
Yeah.
tremendous power that he wasn't used to.
When you look at the guys at that time, though, man, you got
And he got sluggish when he got
he
bigger.
did. But you got look at that time period, though, man. You got Marvin Hagler, you got Tommy Hearns, you got
Yeah.
Sugar Leonard, who was
For every documentary you see about Duran, there's a documentary about those
Yeah.
guys too, because they're just as impressive. So
Oh, yeah.
they're not. You're not losing the bums, you know.
yeah. So I mean, I also liked. I liked Camacho. I liked him. He was fun
Oh, heck
to watch. He was
yeah.
really crazy. Like he's a weird guy, but he was entertaining.
Yeah.
He talked a lot of shit.
Yeah, he
man.
did.
But he could back it up. My thing about smack talk, I have no problem with it if you can back it up and if you're really entertaining, if you're really good, if you're fun to watch. Like some of the guys out there, I don't really like. I'm not a big Nate Diaz fan. I think he's a real tough guy. He's real durable and he can take a beating.
I was able to tolerate it more as he was on top and he
Yeah.
was doing well. And now that it's like, okay, there might be something to be like said for like you need to beef up a little bit. Like if
Yeah.
you're gonna talk all this smack, like the gazelle look might have worked for a while.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. If he had more like.
But they picked
Yeah.
up on it, just like people picked up on Conor McGregor's style, and they started kind of piecing him up.
Yeah.
There has to be an evolution if you want to stick around. If you're going to continue to fight,
Exactly.
because I can only support you
You
for
can't.
so long.
Well, you can't. In my opinion, I just don't think it's a great way to. If you're gonna fight somebody, your strategy can't be, well, just punch my face until you get tired, and then I'll just choke you
And
out.
then-
Yeah.
That's not a great strategy.
I never quit
you
a
know?
fight. I never lost a
yeah,
fight.
but you can't talk. Like you hear him talk, you
get
can't put
punched-
together
punched
sentences.
drunk,
Right, yeah.
And his face, I mean, every fight, his face looks like a bumblebee.
I think
mean,
Nick
it's like,
Diaz said he had to get his eyebrows shaved
Him
down.
and his brother
yeah,
both.
but,
Yeah.
but here's the
Open.
thing. I'm not saying that he's a tough guy. He's very
Yeah.
tough. He can take a beating, but it's not something you want as you're like, okay, well, if I go to your seminar, what are you going to teach me?
Yeah.
You going to teach me how to like take a beating, because his technique isn't. I mean, his jiu-jitsu is really good. Okay, of course. I'm not a big fan of his box. People say his boxing. I think his boxing's terrible.
Yeah.
I think his boxing, his kicking is terrible. But
I think volume is about the one thing that you can
his
say.
conditioning, he never gets tired.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's scary. When you're sparring with someone and you're exhausted and the other person is not even breathing, that's scary. That's a scary thing.
I think Joe Rogan said that. I think he said it was Nick, but Nick Diaz used to swim to Alcatraz and back. He's like, those are shark-infested waters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just out there just casually, you know.
Well, I heard that this is what I heard. I heard that they do like triathlons for training.
They're constantly doing those.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're always in shape. That's what I heard. They're always in fight shape. But, like I said, there has to be more to your game than just taking a beating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to be somewhat entertaining as far as like, okay, do you have a style that's really fun to watch? Like that's why I like watching boxing. Like as far as like Lomachenko, Lomachenko's a genius. The guy's he's a scientist. Like, It's like Mayweather. People don't appreciate what these guys do, especially Mayweather because he plays it safe. But if you do what we do, you can appreciate what he does because he's like a scientist. He can see things, how they happen, how they break down. He can react to them. His identification is so sharp. And the same thing with Lomachenko. I mean, they can see things like almost intuitively. And now you're seeing like these training methods. You see these things that Lomachenko does with his brain. He puts together puzzles.
Oh yeah,
and he touches the lights and he puts together puzzles again. These are all like reactive things. It's really, really interesting. And another story about him, which is interesting, is that his dad took him out of boxing for 2 years to learn Ukrainian style dance to fix his footwork.
Yeah.
And then after 2 years of that, he put him back into boxing, and his footwork was fixed. Genius. These guys are awesome. You know?
Oh yeah.
It's crazy too when you just see how like everything evolves like that. Like so many little things like that just make your style better, your stance better.
Yep.
Like I think that's what I heard. It was like ballet, but I'm just like, who would have thought? You know, who would have thought that would help you be a better, you know, make your footwork better as a boxer?
Exactly. It's just everyone's looking for that edge. Everyone's looking to find that one thing that the other person doesn't have. And people are going through great lengths to find it, you know, whatever it is, the new thing that nobody's heard about.
I think that's why the Diaz brothers, they did well for so long because fighters weren't as well-rounded as they have become in the last 10 years. So over the last 10 years, guys have gotten to the point to where, okay, well, I have ground game too. So you're not just going to like, you know, like I might take you down. Like it used to be they get taken down by a wrestler, they work their jiu-jitsu, and then they triangle the guy, and then it's over, you know. But now other guys are good. You know, there's other black belts in jiu-jitsu in the UFC as well. So I mean, I just feel like it's not me like, oh man, I'm hating on the Diaz brothers. It's me like wincing and being like, man, you could come on.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. Like I think they're great athletes, man. They have this you know, they have the potential to be like really, really awesome. But then, like they take that beating, and then they apply their choke or they apply the pressure after that. Like, but you're banking on like your durable jaw or chin.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, well, I'm just gonna let him just gas out, and then I'm gonna, you know, take over after that. That's a dangerous thing to do. Like they can get away with it, but the average person who doesn't have that kind of durability, they're not going to be able to take that kind of punishment. I mean, most guys, they're going to get knocked out and get hit the way they get hit. So it's a dangerous thing to do, you know.
My all-time favorite boxer. I'll just throw this in here. Because I know you've mentioned before, like with the Filipino style, with the knives and stuff like that. The first thing I thought of in my head, I was like, maybe that's why Manny Pacquiao was such a savage. Because at one point, man, he was. I don't care what anybody says. He was the best boxer on the planet. And I think him and Mayweather fought 10 years too late. I think that fight should have happened back in like 08, 09 when they were both in their prime.
Yeah.
That was when, like, because at the time, like, everybody Mayweather was fighting, Pacquiao was knocking out, and Mayweather was just kind of piecing up. You know, like, he would make them look like he would outclass them. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't like knocking people out. Like when he fought De La Hoya.
Yeah.
You know, that was a split decision win. And then when De La Hoya fought Pacquiao, he just destroyed him and then made him quit in the 8th round. You know, it was unheard of for De La Hoya, you know, to quit a fight.
Yeah.
So, him for a while, he was like my favorite. Lomachenko, I wouldn't say he's like my favorite fighter, but I do like everything that he does to just be a better fighter. I think
he's made, 3 guys quit.
Yeah, I remember
he made them quit.
And I think that their environment is what makes them, or gives them the attributes. You know, Pacquiao is known for huge calves.
Yeah.
He would go hiking in the mountains, you know.
I said this too, like you're saying environment, that's true. You think about this, like some of the places that are like some of the poorest places in the world, they tend to breed the strongest fighters. The best fighters come from there. Now you're seeing a lot of guys from Russia come over and dominate in boxing. It's crazy how it's working.
And you look
now.
at their training, and it's so different. They're like, well, I'm not going to do that. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's not like.
Yeah.
Why aren't you just using weights? You know, why are you doing
The Russians have been, sort of pioneers as far as training. Like you look at I look at the hockey team back in the early '80s, late '70s. That Olympic hockey team was so scary because they were so good. They could dominate any team. They killed every team. You watch their training footage, how they trained compared to like the Americans and the Canadians. That's what changed hockey here in America. You watch those guys train. Now everyone's training like that. They had 45-pound plates jumping up, doing box jumps with 45-pound plates, and the barbell, like the cleaning jerks and stuff. All that stuff that was like weird is now that's like average thing. This is like basic stuff that you do in hockey training now, or like any athletic training endeavor now. That's basic stuff, basic strength training. Like, but at the time, what they were doing, they were skating with they put a tire and weights in it. They would pull this like a sled. They're not doing that. They weren't doing that. And in America, they would laugh at that stuff. Like, what are these guys doing? These guys were drinking beer in the off season. They were partying. These guys were training. That's why they were so good all year round. So those guys changed the game, and their training methods were really severe, really serious. And they were sort of funded by the government there. So they had to represent, and they it was like really serious. You couldn't disrespect the country, So like those guys, and now even Pacquiao, Pacquiao used to do Thai boxing.
No,
he used to play Thai boxing.
Did he?
There's a picture of him with Thai shorts, and he's doing Thai. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, his training style too. I think he's another example of he was just always doing that little bit of extra. But I got there for a while. Like I think he was really one of the first ones that kind of like made me like, oh, I kind of want to do this. And then Conor McGregor came along, and I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. But I didn't also like look into other things, like all these other art forms, like you guys were talking about earlier. Some of that stuff I didn't even know exists.
Fall in love with martial arts.
Yeah,
that's my.
He's turning me. He's slowly but surely turning me.
So I'm gonna make you be this co-host on the podcast. You're gonna listen to people, and you're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's a look, man. The journey of the martial arts is fun. It's just fun when you're, even if you just stuck to like certain things. If you just, let's say you wanted to do like kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and look at the world of jiu-jitsu alone, or grappling. There are so many different branches of like grappling, where you can investigate and look into. Like I would look into like Eric Paulson.
Yeah.
Eric Paulson's a genius, man. All of this stuff, like the CSW, combat submission wrestling, it's got so many elements of like Shuto, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, catch-as-catch-can wrestling. It's got that stuff infused in it.
Yeah.
It's got stuff from Sambo, and Judo. He's got all these things infused in that. So you're getting the best of all those worlds when you do CSW, when you do.
I'll add you to that group on Facebook.
Okay.
It's really, really
interesting. There's a lot of useful stuff. I mean, like he was saying, like you got to make sure that you can sell the seminar if you're going to book him for a seminar. But there's tons of content out there, whether it's 30-second to 5-minute long videos, or just small instructionals that you can pick up the essence of what know, and you can see that what he does. I mean, his movement. I mean, it's so just like it seems like it's so effortless.
When you talk about movement, okay, that's the thing that I think I'm in love with is, I think movement. That's what I'm a big fan of, movement. I like watching gymnasts. I like watching dancers dance, the way that people move. I think it's fascinating in the way that they move their body. And like I told this to someone not too long ago, is I think when you look at like dancers and stuff, it's like they're almost having conversations through movement. You know, it's like, it's really beautiful to watch. And like in martial arts, that's what you're doing basically, is you're sort of like painting this picture, right? It's, you guys are both in there, you're doing your thing, and you're you can say you're competing, yes, but when you watch two good fighters fight, man, I mean, it's so exciting, not just for like the entertainment value, but to me it's like what they're doing, how they're doing it, like the style they're doing it, and like some guys have such a beautiful way that they do things. Then there's the sluggers and stuff, those are fun to watch too, but the guys that are like really stylistic, they make it, they show you it's an art form. They show you like what it can look like at a high level. It's really special to watch when you watch like an Anderson Silva or a Canelo Alvarez or anybody who's like a high level combat athlete. It's beautiful to watch.
Oh yeah. I think like when you mentioned earlier, like just how much of an appreciation you have for martial arts once you start doing it. I'm in that kind of phase right now where like you felt like beforehand, just because guys have so much pride in being a hard ass and no one can mess with me and stuff like that until you come in here and spar.
Yeah.
And then you realize,
This is being a bouncer at a bar.
Yeah.
You hear guys talk a big game, especially once they've had a few
Yeah.
drinks.
And they're always, 21, 22, 23 years old, just, pissed drunk and just full of piss and vinegar, talking
It's
shit.
funny because the other day, the other evening, I came in and he was bouncing and I started talking to him, and then he looked at somebody that walked in, and it's somebody he had a problem with the previous weekend, and he's like, I gotta nip this in the butt right now before he starts drinking. Like, I gotta let. He's like, I just see him. He's like, we need to talk.
Yeah.
We need to talk. He goes over there and just let him know, because wait till he gets 5 drinks in, and then try to say, hey man, this isn't gonna be like last weekend. So
you check him like, hey.
Yeah, just because
like,
the last time he was in
kick you
there,
out, but
he was in there, he was with 2 other people, and they were kind of, there was like a personal situation there with a girl, of course, but they were just like circling me all night and like walking by me and harassing me and like pointing at me and laughing. Well, that last night or the 2 nights ago, he came in by himself, came in with his girlfriend. So I approached him, I didn't aggressively approach him. I just said, we need to talk. If you're gonna stay in here tonight, we need to talk. So. He came over and I was just like, hey, what's the deal, man? I said, I don't even know you. I said, what's your problem? I'm not coming to you and being aggressive and whatever, but, I was like, if you want to handle this, man, I said, we can handle it any way you want. And he was like, no. Of course, was downplaying it and didn't remember it. And I was like, well, and he used the excuse, I was drunk. Everybody always says, I was drunk.
How long have you been training martial arts?
Not very long. I would say, like, really solidly and consistently, probably with him, for like the last 6 or 7 months. I always went like periodically, like a couple of years before that.
Okay. So far, like thus far, what have you learned about yourself? What have you learned?
Well,
not technique. I'm talking about like personally. What has it given you?
I love how far I've pushed my body, for sure. I think at first I just thought, man, I don't know if this is for me. When you come in here and you get beat up or you get dog tired and you're just like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then when you get to that point where you realize like you're pushing yourself, like simple stuff like when we run, and we can run 5 miles and we can still go, or like when we come in here and we grapple and it's like I feel like I could still go.
I know I overestimated my athleticism.
Why?
I came in here and then like you realize how unathletic you are. In a certain
And there's just
when you're
there's
boxing,
stuff,
you're like, oh my god, this is different.
I think I'm still kind of figuring myself out as far as like. What I like, I do like boxing. I'm just not, it's like he said, I'm kind of tentative right now. I'm not really putting stuff together like I want to. Not being aggressive, I guess, as much as I should be, especially with wanting to fight. I know I need to.
He gets caught up in wanting it to look the way it should look.
I'm playing it out in my head, like as I'm doing it, and I just need to like, just use the technique.
A lot of times,
it's like you said, one of the punches are gonna land. You might not land them all, but you're gonna hit something.
That's the thing when you train combinations on the mitts and stuff, or in the bag. Like, you have to remember that not all of them are going to land,
Yeah.
but some of them will, you know, and you only need that one or two to land really solidly, and then then you're in. Then you can continue from there. But like sometimes, a lot of times, our jab, it doesn't land every time. Does it mean you stop throwing it? No, of course not. You keep throwing it
Right.
till it lands.
Think about Roy Jones. I mean, his was like a boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. Like, he
Yeah.
almost mastered the jab.
Talk about a guy who's got like a body for fighting. He's big. He's tall, lanky, big, like, muscular.
Yeah.
He's strong. He's a freak of nature, man. That guy.
Oh yeah.
I don't like him as a person, but
Yeah.
man, he's a great athlete, though, man.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's like the same thing you say about like John Jones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People say he's the greatest ever,
All right.
but
I think that even prior to martial arts, he's been able to stay pretty composed. Like most stories that he'll recount to me, he's kept his composure when somebody's trying him. When like he's a pretty patient person. Like you can see when he gets. I mean, when we were grappling earlier, you saw like when I grabbed his neck the wrong way. He kind of got a little bit more explosive, but I want that.
Yeah.
Especially in
I like that he pushes
in
me like
in
that,
MMA. Like if you're going to get in the cage and fight,
Yeah.
there's somebody that's going to
Yeah.
like after they beat you or after they tap you, they're gonna like you saw at that last event. That
Yeah.
dude, he triangle. He ran in. As soon as he ran in, he did a little spin.
He
and
went to
then
the ground.
Went to
and,
the ground, did a
yeah.
spin, tried for a heel hook or something. It didn't work, but then got the guy down, put him in a triangle. It was over. As soon as it was over, the guy was like on his knees, kind of like slumped over. He gets on top of him and he's talking so much shit to him, down on him, screaming at him, like pointing fingers at him. And the guy gets up and throws his mouth guard and tries to like rear up at him, and they had to like separate him and stuff
Yeah.
right after the fight. People are gonna like. I'm not saying a lot of people you're gonna encounter are going to be respectful. You're gonna have your face off picture, and you'll get the vibe right off the bat. You'll know whether or not this person is somebody that you could say, well, I respect him. I respect the way they carry themselves. I like that. You know, it seems like they're a humble person. We're gonna go in there and we're just gonna fight and we're gonna see what happens, and I'm gonna respect him when it's all said and done. There's people that you're gonna have to make respect you.
Yeah. For
You
sure.
know, there's people that are like my last opponent. He had to talk crap to me leading up to the fight in order to get himself into the correct mental space. And afterwards, he apologized. And I ended up losing the fight via decision, you know, and I made some mistakes, and I respected him more after we fought because it wasn't just talk. I was like, this guy was talking, and I guess you know, maybe he'll grow and he'll mature and he'll figure out that okay. And he did. After the fight, it was instantly. I mean, we hugged it out. He apologized. He said, hey, man, I just want you to know, no hard feelings. I felt like that's what I had to do in the moment in order to get into the right mental space, but it really wasn't in like that was a dog fight, man.
It was a
I
scrap.
respect you.
It was a good fight.
I have no problems with
Yeah.
you. His coach messaged me afterwards and said, hey, man, come cross-train. Like you got a mean cross, you know, because the only punches, combinations, or punches that I landed during that fight was stuff that I set up with my jab, stuff that I was calculated in how I threw it, and it was like bing bing boom, the cross landed. I mean, so like there was certain parts of that fight I can watch and I can be like, I did good. There were certain parts where I was like, I was enraged. I did bad. That was not me.
That was your first time out, though.
Yeah.
So it's. I think you talk to anybody's first fight,
Right. Yeah.
they're gonna say, "Oh God, that was my first."
Yeah. They don't
fight."
even want to talk about it. Yeah.
It's because that's how you shake off everything. Like that's your first exposure to it. Now you know how to handle it. Now you know how to prepare for it correctly. Like now you know like what to expect. Now you can prepare properly.
Mentally too, like you
Yeah.
can prepare a lot better for that too. Like
He
that's
got me
kind of
up
my
against the
thing, yeah.
cage too, and I was like, I should have been working
Yeah,
the cage.
why
I
did
should
I
have been
know
doing
that?
wall work.
Yeah.
Why
more.
didn't I
should've-
prepare this way? This is,
Yeah,
this is how people, the average person, thinks when they're getting attacked too. Like when I had a guy come in one time and he was like a funeral director or like he owned a funeral home, and he's a big dude. He's a big dude. He came in. He's like, I gotta learn how to fight, man. I said, what happened? What's going on? What made you want? I ask everybody, what makes you want to do this? Because I need to know how to help these people. So he's like, well, I got my ass kicked by one of my employees. He just cold cocked me, just boom, and he was just much smaller than me, and when I was down on the ground, he was towering over me, like intimidating me, like taunting me, and I didn't know what to do. He's like, I've never fought anybody in my life. I've never had to fight anybody. I've never felt that way. I never want to feel like that again. So it's scary, right? Yeah. He's like, yeah, well, that's combat. That's reality, and you got slapped with reality where it's like, okay, this can happen to anybody, even you. You know, you're a successful businessman. Yeah, it can happen to you too. But I think everybody needs to learn how to defend themselves. Okay, you don't got to be an animal. Okay,
Yeah.
but you should learn something. I think everybody needs to do that. Kids especially.
Yeah.
With the bullying and everything, but adults, like I think everybody needs to move, do something, and I think martial arts is better than like just going to the gym lifting weights. There's nothing wrong with that either. I do that too.
Yeah.
I love that, but
It gets super old.
it
you
is.
know?
It does. Like running on the treadmill. At least with martial arts, you're learning new skills.
Mhm.
You're sharpening those skills, those tools, and you're constantly putting them into play. And you're learning about yourself. I mean, it's really important when you spar with another person. You're putting your material, your accumulation of tools, up against his, you know, and you're experimenting with things. Like I said, you're discovering things about yourself. There's no greater thing in the world, I think, and there's no more. It's a very masculine thing to do.
Yeah.
I know this generation is like against masculinity, but I'm not. I think that's.
I take full pride.
For every
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you're,
Good.
you know,
Yeah.
a straight male, like why not take pride in that?
Exactly,
As much as
yeah.
you would take pride in being, you know, a gay male.
Yeah. So I mean, people talk about like this toxic masculinity thing. I think there's
There's toxic femininity.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. I think if you're an asshole,
Look at
you're an
Johnny
asshole.
Yeah.
If someone's gonna be an asshole, they're gonna be an asshole. And it doesn't matter if they're masculine or not. It comes down to like the person's personality. I mean, I think being masculine is nothing wrong. I think it's a healthy thing. That's a great thing to have.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that I'm trying to prepare, because I have one fight in the cage, and I did a street beefs fight too. So like
I did a street beef.
Dude, yeah. Let me tell you about that.
Do you see Icy Mike there? Icy Mike. I gotta watch his channel. Hard to Hurt.
Yeah, 70,000 people watched it too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I beat the dog shit out of this guy, and then he got me in a bulldog choke like Khabib did to Conor.
Oh, those are the worst.
And he had hit me with a knee at the end of the first round, and I took the knee, I just ate it, and then I went for a takedown, and the first round ended with me on top of him, trying to do some ground and pound, but it wasn't really working. And then they pulled me off. Round 2 started. It started sinking in. My head started pulsating. I was like, wow, I got kicked in the head clean. Like,
Yeah.
somebody need me.
Yeah.
And then I ran in. I did some kind of weird, like, chest-to-chest bump, like where we just collided. And then I went down, and he just swung his arm around the back of my head, started squeezing my head. And because I had gotten kicked in the head, I was like, I really don't like this. I wouldn't tap to head pressure normally. But then also in street beefs, we're outdoors, we're in a cage. There's plywood that's painted black and mulch. It had rained that week,
Yeah.
so they threw mulch down.
I could honestly
So I'm
believe the
face
mulch.
down. I'm face down in mulch, trying to like compose myself. And I was like, you know what? This is unsanctioned. I'm not. Even if I win, I get the YouTube comments. Like that's my accolades. If I win, like
right.
I'm good. So I just
Yeah.
tapped out, and
That
it is what it is. Like
that's the thing about YouTube. You think it's all gonna be good if you win. It's gonna be bad stuff too in the
Yeah.
comments. Oh, I would have beat your ass. I would've-
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
so tough. And then, they're sitting there with one sock on in their underwear and typing this shit. And
Yeah.
But I walked out
Yeah.
of that cage and everything set in. I know I had a concussion. And I was in West Virginia in the mountains, 16 hours away from home.
Yeah.
Luckily, Chris, the owner here, he drove me because he's like, I don't really want you to do this, and I don't think it's a good idea, but if you're going to do it, I'm going to be there with you. Because that was when I was a nomad. I wasn't training at my old gym. I wasn't training here full-time yet, but I had moved to the area. And he's like, but if you're going to do it, let me drive you. Because if you get hurt bad, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? You drive yourself
Yeah,
home?
you can't drive.
So I started vomiting alongside the car. You know, I was like, dude, I got a concussion. This is it. I'm like puking everywhere. I'm like, this is horrible. And then like I praise them for their patience and their ability to console me because all I did was complain and moan and gripe on the way home. And like I had the seat leaned back with my eyes closed. They had stopped at a gas station, bought me some Tylenol, and I was drinking ginger ale, and I was trying not to be nauseous. And I was like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do this? This was so that kind of like that. It was a good thing in a way that it killed my ego. And it brought me into the reality of what fighting was. Because back then, when I was a nomad of just like I wasn't training anywhere, I had just gotten my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and I was like, this is all I need, and I was lifting heavy, dude. That's not it. Like,
well, it's good that you found that out, though.
Yeah.
It's you came to a reality that there's more to do. You know.
So and the last gym that I was training at was they even said it. We're not a fighters gym. If that's what you want us to facilitate, we can't. I mean, I can. Some of the coaches had fought before, but that's not what they're catering towards. So they're like, if you're wanting to fight, you're gonna like. Not saying go somewhere else, but you know, like if that's what you want, like if you want hard rounds all the time, like you know, like we're kind of a mix and match of hobbyists and people that aren't maybe they're here to get in shape and they're not here for the same reasons as you, and you don't want to get misunderstood. And I understood that, and I didn't leave that gym on bad terms. I just moved to this area. It was a block down the road. Fighters had came out of this gym in the past.
Yeah.
The gym owner had fought. The guy who teaches our MMA class has won belts at pro level. I mean, it seems so. This is right for me.
It's a good thing that guy told you that was the kind of gym he was at. Hey, look, man, you know you're not going to get what you want here exactly.
Yeah. And he wanted to. Like, he tried to give me every bit of what he could.
I tell the same thing. There's people that come in and they want it to be like, you know, well, I'm planning to fight in UFC and I want to be, you know, I want to train here. I want to start my journey here. I said, well, this is not the kind of place you want to go for, like, to start your journey. I mean, if you want to, you need to go to a fighter's gym.
Yeah.
My school, my academy is not a fighter's gym. I mean, we got some pretty tough guys there, but it's not, you know, we don't cater to that kind of like thing. It's not like, you know, because most of the people, they have jobs, they have careers, they have, you know, they can't go to work looking like Fight Club, you know. So it's like it's not that kind of. But can you learn? Absolutely, you can learn, but for the work that you need someone like really coaching you through everything, and you know, getting you sparring partners that are gonna, you know, come in and give you some work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not just hitting mitts for 10 minutes.
And I told him, I was like, dude, I'm not like an asshole by nature, but I'm gonna be an asshole to you. I'm sorry, like, because like I know that there's certain things that I wish I would have known going into those fights, and it was just my naivete, like whatever, you know, like it was just like I should have known because, you know, I've kind of ingratiated myself in this community, but I had to learn some way. And amateur is where you learn to be a fighter. If you want to be a fighter and that's like your end game, you know, and you want to be a pro fighter and you really want to make a go at this, amateur, your record does not matter. Like Chris said, fight camps don't matter. Always stay ready. Always be in good shape. You should always be ready to go in there and lay it down. But you don't need a fight camp to go into a fight, especially at the amateur level. Yeah. Because nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares. Nobody quotes any, like, when's the last time do you know Mike Tyson's amateur record?
Right.
Like, because of all the documentaries and stuff, like, you probably know a little bit of this and that.
The only reason people know of Floyd's is because that's the only time he's ever lost.
Yeah.
You know,
like nobody quotes anybody's amateur record. Now, it's not to say that you don't want to go out there and win, but like this, the leaps and bounds that you're going to make are going to be in the cage and after the cage. The last few months, or the months after my first fight in the cage, is when I grew the most as a martial artist, because I was like, this worked, that worked, this did not work at all.
And that's what
I cannot kick like that.
That's what each fight's going to teach you something, you know. But it's like there's also the downsides of the fight game where you're going to go to a fight, planning to fight, and then the guy backs out. Yeah. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And
I drove to Missouri.
You drove there for nothing. You made
awesome.
weight. You did all that struggle, and now it's off. Now you gotta go home.
Yeah.
You've been preparing mentally, physically, and now it's gone. It happens all the time. So you gotta
especially at the amateur level. I mean,
I'm sure
people they're not getting paid,
the
and they're not financially held.
Yeah.
To they're not under contract. They
can just say no.
Yeah, and there's guys that you're gonna encounter that aren't like they're 1 foot in. You know, they're not really, and you might beat them because of that. But dude, like, just don't hold yourself to this has to go this way, and if I lose, the world's over, and like just love it, dude. Love it and fall in love with martial arts. Fall in love with like you're doing it. I think honestly, whether you tell this to yourself or not, I think you're doing it for more than just wanting to win fights and make money and stuff. I think it's like, I think that like it's becoming apparent that there's more of you have a passion or a genuine interest in fighting.
I think I'm still finding that too. It's like I turn 30 next month, and I think what I put into perspective in my life with just like everything that happened last summer when you and I basically met and first started, creating the idea of all this stuff, filming, training. I think I was just like, you know what? And being a father also, it's just I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. What do I want to do for the rest of my life? What is my passion?
I don't want to work at a trailer factory.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
No. Like my childhood was, I've explained that to you. Where like, I did play football in high school, but before that, I wasn't allowed to play sports. I mean, I wasn't even allowed to have a girlfriend when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I was literally like held down from like hanging out with friends and socializing, and kind of why I took the bouncing job, because I thought, well, maybe that'll help me get out there and talk to people. And
it gets even worse as you're an adult.
Yeah.
Like, how do I meet people?
Yeah.
That's martial arts has been a godsend.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the good thing about martial.
Yeah.
It can connect you with different people. And
the community.
To meet people that you meet, you never know what happens. You might meet someone. You might create a business with them. You might have an idea that you
said,
that person. It's crazy how that works.
It really is, and I think it's taken my mind off of a lot of other stuff too, like just being worried about work or being worried about money and things like that. Once I can drag myself in here, I'm dog tired before I get here.
Because think about it too. Like I tell this to everybody too: is when you step in here and you train, you're not thinking about the world.
Mm-mm.
You're not thinking about like work, your girlfriend, whatever. All this stuff doesn't exist in here. It's just this, and you're free. For that time, it's like your time. You should be selfish with that time. It's for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. No one else matters. This is for you. This is your time. So, as a student, as a person who's growing into this thing, the best thing you could have is interest.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested, you're gonna learn. If you love it, you're passionate about it, you're gonna pick up things fast because you want it. And the hunger's there. But if it's something that's like I like it, but
right,
you're only going to get this good. You're only going to hit that plateau. You're going to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it a lifestyle, if you make it a part of who you are, man, you're going to keep growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Is just kind of making it a part of my life. Like now, having a fight scheduled and stuff. It's like, well, this is it. This is my life now.
Yeah,
this
is
real.
Yeah.
This is.
I told him
happy.
we're both like basically the same age within a couple months. So I said, this is it. 30 to 35, we're not gonna ever feel as good as we feel now. Athletically, our bodies are gonna start breaking down. We're gonna start getting older. We have to take advantage of the fact that this is the we gotta. These are the dog years.
Yeah.
We gotta make up for lost time. Get the amateur out of the way.
When is this fight? How far?
June 25th. So it's about 2 months exactly.
Months. Okay, so you're 2 months out, right? How do you feel psychologically? Leading up to it now, it's coming closer and closer. How do you feel?
I don't know. Like I think being as far out as it is, I'm not like.
Well, when you made the decision, you signed something?
Not yet.
Okay, so, but you made the decision. You said, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
After that moment happened, what was going through your mind?
In my head, I just thought, okay, this is where the hard work starts. This is where like I need to be focused. I don't need to miss training. I need to be here. I need to put the time in. If I'm not going to be here, I need to put the time in, with my conditioning and stuff like that. So right now I'm just focused on the work. Making sure that, I do the work, and then it's just going to be up to me. He provides me with knowledge, Chris, Steven, everybody provides me, we got good sparring partners.
What little knowledge I have. I'm not this OG in the game.
The psychology.
He's a great teacher for somebody who doesn't know anything about it.
The psychology, though, of combat sports is scary because it's like, if you made a plan to fight, now you got to think about it, and then the person you don't know who you're fighting, that could be anybody, and then you think about, even if it's like a guy who's not that experienced, you're gonna make him out to be like Godzilla in your mind. He's gonna be like King Kong. Oh my God, I'm this guy, and you're not gonna sleep the night before, and you're gonna think this guy's a killer. oh my God, he's gonna embarrass me. I'm gonna all this stuff's gonna be running through your head, man. You're not gonna sleep the night before. You're gonna be all like, oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
But you gotta understand, the other person's doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's going through the same thing. Okay. So that's the thing that you have to remember is like once you like get that anxiety, like, oh my God, this is really happening. This is for real. Like I remember Jay told me a story. He said his first fight. He said that he felt all right. He felt great going into the ring and everything. And then as the announcer was making the announcements, he's like, he turned and as he was about to say to his trainers, I don't want to do this anymore. The bell rang, boom, and it was it. And it was on. Like he was getting hit. He was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, he was just about to say that. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Can we stop? And the bell rang and it was too late. But everybody goes through that. Everybody feels that way. They're scared to death.
Well, the hardest dude out there is at some point, he's feeling nervous, he's feeling anxious.
You should always
scary.
You should always be nervous because it keeps your wits about you. You should always.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what Customato said that fear is like fire. Fire is good. Like when you need to cook your food, you keep yourself warm in the cold. But it could also burn your house down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can burn you to death. You burn everything to ashes. So to control that's an art form in itself.
Yeah.
Like the psychology,
Mm-hmm.
like people don't know, but Customato didn't have Tyson box or spar for like 2-3 weeks. He just talked to him for 2 weeks because he had to peel away layers.
know his character.
He had to get to know what's this kid's thing, what's his problem, what is he afraid of, what is he scared of, and can I get through to him? Then he started training. Then he knew what to do.
Yeah, because I mean, can you imagine the Mike Tyson that never met Customato? Exactly. He wouldn't be as he wouldn't be a philosopher the way he is. I mean, you watch him even on a hot box, and he goes deep, and he might be stoned when he's going deep.
He's really hot. Yeah. I just listened to I just actually on the way here I was listening to Hot Boxing with Joe Rogan. He had Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I need to listen to that one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's good. But sometimes, Mike is like stoned.
Sometimes he don't talk. It's nice that he has a co-host to kind of carry it. Because he won't talk for long periods of time.
Sometimes he says things that are like, he doesn't finish them because he's like, he's somewhere else in his mind. But a lot of the things that he says come from Cuss. A lot of the things that he talks about, those are from Cuss. Mm-hmm. And that's what he learned from him because he would come to him at night as he was sleeping and talk to him. And he just reinforcing things. And, he had a hypnotist before every fight. Which is crazy. Yeah. And he would tell him, like, okay, as he was hypnotizing him, you're going to hit him with the right hand. You're going to hit him with the right hand, okay? Right hand. The right hand's your bomb. That is the bomb. He's going to hit him right in the chin. And what would he do? Boom. He'd go in the ring. He looked possessed because he was. The guy just worked with him. And the reason people say, why wasn't Customato in his corner? Because Customato didn't have a boxing license anymore. It was revoked. Because I don't know if it was the Nevada State Athletic Commission or he was banned from boxing for a while. That's why he hid up in Catskill for a while because he didn't trust. He thought the mafia was going to kill him because he went against the mob in the boxing world. So they wanted him dead. So anytime he went to a restaurant, he would make sure like his pockets were like sewed together so nobody could slip him anything. They didn't get in trouble. He was paranoid. He was very paranoid.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. If you read the book. The Undisputed Truth, they talk about it a little bit there, but then there's the other book, Ambition. I have it, but I read it. It's real long, and it's about all the court cases. He was in court with the mob for a long time because the mob owned boxing. Yeah. He could not get around it. It was just they owned it. Mm-hmm. And he didn't like that. He was the first honest man in boxing. He didn't care about money. He did everything for the fighter, which was something you never hear. You never hear that. He was 100% for the fighter. He did everything for the fighter. He never asked for anything for himself.
Yeah, and it showed obviously with how Mike Tyson performed, and at 19 years old was the world champion. You know what I mean, it's
crazy.
It's
man.
insane.
That's a crazy story too. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, as we wind down here, I do want to sneak Just some like off-topic stuff. Do you have a favorite martial arts movie?
Oh man, that's a good question, man.
'Cause you're probably more familiar with the older stuff than I am, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking of like more of.
Well, I think probably the best martial arts movie of all time, in my opinion, I'd have to go with Bloodsport.
Okay.
Because you see the different styles. I think it's
Yeah.
it's like the pre-UFC of its
Yeah.
time.
Regardless if
essentially,
if who it was based on
Yeah.
was BS.
It's all
Yeah.
BS. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
he knew how to tell a story.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
It's a great movie. Great
Yeah,
story.
very good.
Cheers.
A lot of heart. Mine?
Yeah.
Oh man. Honestly, man, it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy, and I hate to say it, but I love No Retreat, No Surrender.
It's classic, man.
It's cheesy,
Classic. It's
but
real
it's a
cheesy,
good one,
right?
you know.
It's real cheesy.
And it's not like it's like I don't know. That's what made me get into Bruce Lee.
I'm shocked you'd even bring that movie up because you're a young guy. So
I'm the youngest
That's
of
like
three
mine.
though. So like everything was
so you
passed
got yeah
down.
exactly yeah.
Okay.
All the 80s toys,
Yeah.
like I know about them just because I was born in 92, but
Mhm.
I know about all the earlier stuff. You know, I played Sega. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
well, I was on 64 and PS2, and I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I had like Atari and
Yeah.
Sega.
Yeah, dude,
I don't know about you.
I remember I had Atari and then we had like Nintendo and yeah, I remember that.
So, but yeah, and that's a lot of my, especially martial arts movie, dude, like The Octagon, and like early Chuck Norris.
Chuck
like,
Norris, yeah.
I love Walker, Texas Ranger, but like early 60s and 70s Chuck Norris, early Clint Eastwood movies.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's awesome.
all the Dirty Harry movies. I mean, so now one of my favorite martial artists that's in film right now is Scott Adkins.
Yeah,
he's great.
he's
great.
he did what was that like ninja series he did, I think.
Yeah, there was
It's
something
something
like
like
that.
that. Yeah, I really like those too.
And then Jason Statham has kind of gotten beyond this world in his
Yeah.
popularity, especially with the
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious
He's,
series.
he's great.
But a lot of his movies prior to that, I really got into his acting.
And he's a real martial artist. Same with Scott
Yeah.
Adkins. They're real martial
Real
artists.
martial
They actually
artists,
do.
yeah.
They didn't just do this for the movie. They
Yeah.
actually train. You know,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what I respect about those guys. And Keanu Reeves as well. I mean, these guys train. I'm not a big fan of guys that just do it for the movie. Oh, I
Mhm.
just did it for the movie. I remember I met Ralph Macchio. You know,
Yeah.
And I met the guy who plays Johnny Lawrence, William Zabka.
Yeah.
William Zabka actually got a black belt in Tang Soo Do. Like he actually went through the whole thing and he got his black belt and he still trains.
Yeah.
Ralph Macchio, he's like, oh, I just did it for the movie. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, this guy.
I can tell.
Yeah, I know exactly, exactly. Like you didn't put in the work at all, did you?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, well, that was. I think that was a good one, man. It's our first episode.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
we
it
did
was a
it.
good
Hey, I
turnout.
That's
loved
good
it.
to hear
I loved it. I
So,
loved it. I loved
once
talking
again,
to you.
Nick Cavallino. Okay, give us a little bit of information of where can we find you on social media? Where,
Well, I'm only because I'm old. I'm only on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not on Snapchat and all that bullshit. But,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, just Facebook and with Nico Cavallino, and then on Instagram I'm Nick Cav19 at Instagram.
awesome. And it's Allied Martial Arts.
Allied Martial Arts in Southfield, Michigan. Yeah.
Awesome. And are you open to, like, I've seen that you guys were posting. You have a seminar coming up?
Yeah, it's in Grayling, Michigan. People asked me to come out there for to do a seminar in French boxing and some JKD trapping.
Wow, awesome. Well, that's great, man. It was awesome having you out.
Yeah, man.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate
This
it.
has helped us
Yeah,
out a lot.
And,
So
and thank you for teaching the class earlier. That was really
Yeah, I love it. I love
insightful,
doing it.
man.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be back up there soon.
I hope so.
I don't
man.
know when, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Bye bye.
You gonna sleep in the van again?
Yeah.